the focus has been on how do I serve? What is the next step? And I think
Mhm.
because of that, it opens up a
Mm.
mindset of abundance instead of a place of
Yeah.
survival. And it opens me up to walk through the fear because there's a bigger
Mm.
purpose.
Welcome to Hey Awesome Girl with Tivi Jones. Every week, we interview amazing boss babes in tech, medicine, law, entrepreneurship, entertainment, parenting, and more. About their lives, their goals, their why, in order to discover how every day they're working to add more pleasure, ease, and abundance in their orbit. Ooh, hold up. We gotta unpack that. This show is part business advice, part life coaching, part real talk with girlfriends. See how she be coaching me? If you're looking for a show that's real and relatable, but also inspiring at the same time, this is the one for you. I'm your host, Tivi Jones. I'm founder and CEO of the creative agency Hey Awesome Girl. I am dog mom to the amazing Olivia in the other room, and also the cutest little dog on earth. And I, as a fun fact, started working as a freelance marketer at 18. Young buck, 18. And by 25, I was consulting full-time for my own business. Now, my career has had some ups and downs since then, but I've had the pleasure of growing businesses and audiences, managing million-dollar budgets, leading large marketing teams, and generating seven-figure contracts for my clients. On this show, I talk to other boss babes and we figure out how to add more pleasure, ease, and abundance into our crazy lives. Today, you'll meet Beth Carr, who is CEO of Fortified Branding and a certified StoryBrand guide. She has over 15 years of experience and she applies her expertise to building brands and marketing systems for her clients. Beth and I really geek out over branding and storytelling and marketing. We also dig into what it's really like to be an entrepreneur and how being unique may have been scary back in the day when we were kids, but that is the key to building a successful business and a successful brand. It is a really rich episode. I know you will like it, and I am excited to share it with you. Let's watch. Hey, Beth. Welcome to the
Hi.
show.
Hey, Tivi.
What's up?
January is up. Well, it's off. It's gone.
Finally. Thank God.
Finally. And yeah, I'm just really glad that I'm feeling like things are moving forward and starting to flow.
Yeah. Let's talk about that flow. I apologize for the background noise. My dog wants everybody to know that she's in the building as well. Like,
Hey,
I wish
Pop.
I had my reggae horn. Brr, 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 brr. Olivia's in the building. Anyway, enough about Olivia. What about you, Beth? For folks who aren't familiar with you, what you do, please give the people a taste.
Yeah, so I have started a consultancy that I'm going to maybe grow into an agency called Fortified Branding. And it really helps entrepreneurs and purpose-driven businesses realize their inner monologue and elevate those words to tell these very compelling, powerful visual and verbal stories so they can really activate deep connections with their customers, hearts, and
Mhm.
minds, change behaviors, and attract more growth and scale.
First of all, you know I love that. We've had side conversations about branding and all the things. But for
Yes.
people who may not be familiar, what or at least give them like your viewpoint. What's the difference between a consultancy and an
Mm.
agency?
Well, a consultancy, me and my team are coming in and really being able to, it's like you're entering an ER room and you've got the specialist coming in and saying, okay, we're going to focus specifically on, this, like the tear in your heart, right? Very
Right.
specific parts of the
Mhm.
anatomy. So when it comes to brands, a lot of times, we're coming in as that specialist, that strategist, where there are parts and pieces to people's businesses that aren't quite moving along when it comes to marketing or the way their brand is being expressed. And a lot of times it starts with words. It starts with what are the words that you're using to invite your audience into their own story, how are you talking less about yourself and more about them?
Hmm. I love that analogy with the specialists. Obviously, like you have a lot of experience. Like, how did you get to having your own company? Did you start there? Did you start like how did you get
Oh,
here?
well, this might be a common thread with all your other Hey Awesome Girl guests, but sometimes you have to be dragged through a lot of mud to be able to, put the flag in the ground and create your own.
Hmm.
I have been in marketing and branding for over 17 years. I started as a graphic designer on Wall Street in the financial sector in New York
Ooh.
City, creating graphics out of very dry, crunchy Excel sheets where a first year analyst was saying, "Can you make a story out of this?" Which is actually really great training because you're like,
Uh-huh.
how do I take something that's numbers and make it really accessible as a visual story to
Hmm.
more people. And then
Hmm.
over time, my responsibility grew, and all of a sudden, I was in charge of other creatives, and then I was in charge of the whole creative arm and the marketing arm of big corporations like Nestle, to really small startups, tech apps, financial apps, beauty and
Mm.
wellness apps. So leading these companies and what is your voice? What is your messaging? How are you making people feel, which is really what brand is about?
Yep.
How is that being expressed through marketing? So yeah, so
Hmm.
I've been at it for a long time. And after a series, in marketing, and maybe this pertains more to women, I'm not sure yet. I'm still doing a lot of research on this, but I have noticed that a lot of the female creative leaders that I know, they have about an 18-month ramp before there's a shift. Maybe they get promoted, maybe they get
Hmm.
laid off. For
Hmm.
me, um, every 18 months, um, I was being laid off. The company would downsize, the company would
Hmm.
shift in leadership. And so after the fifth serial layoff in 6 years, well,
Oh my
not
God.
6 years, that's not right math, but six companies, um, I decided, I was like, I really want to serve many instead of one-on-one. I
Right.
think there are so many businesses out there. It is the future is the entrepreneur, especially the female entrepreneur. And
Hmm.
there is so much that I can help share in my knowledge to help lift so many different businesses and companies. Um, so I opened up my shingle at the right before the pandemic in January of 2020. I opened up Fortified Branding. And
Wow.
actually, uh, peeps, a lot of people have thrived during the pandemic. My
Hmm.
business has because I was helping a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses pivot into full
Yeah.
e-commerce online. How do I position my product? How do I attract people with my messaging? How do I
Hmm.
magnetize people to want to find out more about my company? So
Yeah.
it's been a journey.
That first of all, that's amazing, Beth. Like we met through a incubator program, and there was some amazingly successful businesses in our group,
Hmm.
including yours. And so, kudos to you for starting during a pandemic and keeping going and like being as successful as you've been. Like,
Thank you. I haven't even been focused on the success or the making money. It's really the focus has been on how do I serve? What is the next step? And I think
mm,
because of that, it opens up a
mm,
mindset of abundance instead of a place of
yeah,
survival. And it opens me up to walk through the fear because there's a bigger
mm,
purpose than getting stuck in the I can't or the imposter syndrome or whatever else might be, adding to the mind trash in my mind, in the
mm.
morning.
Ooh, that mind trash. Ooh. I don't even know where to start. Well, let's talk about mind trash. I
Okay.
hear a lot about it in the circles that I'm in, but for folks who may not have heard that term before, who probably can intuit what it means, but explain it for our audience.
Well, another way that I label it before I heard mind trash, which I just love so much, is I call it my itty bitty committee. It is
Okay.
it is more than one voice, and they sit around a table in my mind and critique me and say things that I wouldn't dare say to anyone, not my dearest friend, not my dog, not my, right? Nobody except
Mm-hmm.
me. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it is a place that just swirls down a drain. There's nothing good that comes out of that mind trash slash committee place.
Yeah.
Um, and so every day I get to take out that trash, roll it to the
Mm-hmm.
curb, and
Mm-hmm.
or fire that committee, right? And say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, your opinion is not welcome here now. You
Mm-hmm.
meeting adjourned.
Right. Yes. And I always think about mine, my itty bitty committee or the mean girls in my brain
Hmm.
as I try to for a while when I learned about mind trash and I learned how our brains work, I would try to like beat them up, like stomp them down, like get rid of them like without compassion.
Hmm.
Now I still get rid of them or tell them to shut up. But it is with more compassion and understanding because I think at least for me it's important for me to understand like how those voices came to be in my brain.
Mhm,
And I
mhm,
think I think at the root they really want to keep us safe.
mm,
And they have a very interesting way of trying to keep us safe. For example,
mhm,
that voice is like, oh, you can't do that, like you shouldn't try, people are going to judge you, like don't put yourself out there, don't do that marketing, like don't
mhm,
have a fancy new brand, don't
mm,
advertise, like
mhm,
it's like this sort of primal fear of being seen, being judged, being crucified, all of these things. And it's the way that they speak to you, at least for
mhm,
me, I feel like that's the root of it. The shit they're
mhm,
saying is sometimes very rude, but I think at the core it's like how can they keep you safe and small because it's less threatening if you are safe and small, if that makes
And I
sense.
love that you just said that to me because it is. It's like it really is. Here's your seatbelt, right? It really is like I want to keep you safe with messaging that you already understand and know inside your
Mm.
head, like wiring,
Mm-hmm.
programming, maybe when we were kids.
Yep.
It's a place of survival.
Mm.
Um, and that's actually the way I'm able to start every day having to fire that committee or take out that trash is
Mhm.
really no, today I get to take up space. I don't have to make an
Yes.
excuse to be here, to be present, to serve, to show up authentically, which for me
Mhm.
is uh, loud, is full of laughter, is making jokes, is about connection, um, about asking questions, about being really inquisitive, right?
Mhm.
I'm the weirdo that stands in a line and will talk to the strangers as my husband or other friends shrink all shy, like, why are you talking to them?
You know them? They know everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be shying away from that. The introvert in me is like, "Ugh, people." She says as she's hosting a whole ass show. Uh,
Hello.
right. I do one of the conversations that we've had before, I forgot who said this on our group, but about the cobbler's kids not having shoes or something like that.
Hmm.
I
Are the
know
last
it's
to get the shoes. Yeah.
right, right,
Hmm.
right. So, Fortified Branding helps businesses differentiate themselves in a crowded market. You help them showcase who they really, really are to attract their target audience. How do you make your own business stand out?
Mm. Yes, I'm the cobbler's kids. um,
I asked because I get it. You know I get it,
I
Beth.
Yes. I have actually decided to do a new tactic for this year. This is part of my goal is every day, what are the little things that you are doing to be able to market yourself better, right? Like right
Mhm.
now, I am uh, remessaging so that I'm focusing on a different offer where I can help companies in a shorter amount of time. So
Mhm.
normally the process of working with us is a week to 6 weeks, depending on how much the project is.
Yep.
Brand messaging now, because just we're able to nail it so well because of our pre work that we do.
Mhm.
I'm working on a VIP day model within a day,
Mhm.
within 24
Okay.
hours, you have your key messaging, your core
Yeah.
messaging to be able to move through the world. So I'm working on that. And I'm working on new free information because I feel like there's so much to just share so
Yeah.
that people can do a lot of things on their own.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been writing, I've started a new email campaign, which is really about emails are really about conversations, nurturing conversations. They're not about
Mhm.
selling or talking at people. And so
Right.
that's what I'm also working on behind the scenes. Um,
I love
how I
that.
get my audiences now is LinkedIn, my network of connections, this community that we're in together,
Yeah.
other communities where I've connected with amazing CEOs and business leaders. So right now it's a lot of word of mouth showing up and just again being
Mhm.
of service. And then they
Yeah.
go, hey, can I, can I book you for a one-on-one for
Mhm.
now? Mhm.
Mhm. I mean, that's beautiful. I think sometimes there is the pressure to like market and be everywhere. And don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
I run a whole agency. Like this is what we do. We help people get the word out. Both of us get the word
Mhm.
out about their company.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think there is, there can be a seasonality to it. For a while, I existed 99.9% based on referrals. And I'm
Mhm.
just now getting to the place where I'm like, okay, I actually want to seek out some new and different clients. And so I think there's value in figuring out what works for you. And so I'm curious, like, how do you approach like doing your business your way?
Hmm. Well, the first thing that I always have to remind myself of is I'm doing this on my own time. It's very easy for me to go to that place where I'm comparing myself to or my business to other people's businesses. Maybe they're farther along, maybe they're just starting out,
Mhm.
right? So that's the first primary thing.
Yeah.
Um, and then again, it goes back to just showing up authentically in every conversation I have, in every post I make on social media. Um, I'm telling stories. I'm telling a personal story about a day, a moment, and that how it ties into how I can serve somebody
Yeah.
else. That's how I've attracted a lot of people in my network to knocking on my door in email and saying, "Hey, I'm heading this company that really needs your help in remessaging and rebranding." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Let's talk about some challenges of being these entrepreneurs that we are, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. What were some not just challenges so we can vent? I mean, we can vent about
Hmm.
challenges if that's what we want to do, but let's
Hmm.
let's talk about what we learned from those challenges as well.
Yeah. I think the biggest lesson for me in just starting to enter year three of my business is in those moments where I'm trying to figure something out and my brain really, really hurts. And in the past, when I was on, you know, a corporate team, there's always the team, but sometimes, in this space, especially in this virtual world, you're by yourself. What
Yep.
has been really great lesson is, wait, everyone is still at the tip of my fingers on a Slack, on a text, on a
Mm-hmm.
call. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be alone in this. That's why I think it's really important to join communities of like-minded, if not like-minded, subject focused
Mm-hmm.
sameness with those goals. So to be in community, that's been a huge lesson. It's actually been really, um, it's made me really be okay to be vulnerable, right? Because in the past, especially normally one of the only female leaders, female minority leaders in a company, I had to act as if I knew all the answers, or at least I
Mm,
thought I did. But being
yeah,
now in my own company, it's okay to say, I don't know. What do you know? Right. So that's
right.
been a huge
Mhm.
lesson.
I can definitely attest to that because I know I've I was talking to Marisa, and we were talking about that time I was talking about crying on a call, and we were
Mm.
breaking down the difference between thug tears and ugly cry and all of that.
Yes.
That community has been so essential to my
Right.
life. So essential.
Yeah.
How do you think entrepreneurship, like you getting into entrepreneurship, has changed your career trajectory?
Mm. Well, first of all, I'm just going to do a shout out to my mama because, growing up in the mid 70s, my mom was doing things that a lot of women were not supposed to be doing, right? She was a single mom raising her kids. She was a working nurse. She worked 3 different shifts, would come home for a couple hours sleep. And
Mm.
when that got to be too much, she opened up her own daycare. All of a sudden, she was like
Wow.
running her own business out of our home. Then she opened up her own nursing agency, right? At a time where, and I'll never forget, like the other exterior voices where you had people going, you can't do that, or why are you doing that, right? Because it wasn't
Mhm.
really known to see females actually take an entrepreneurial step out into the world to say, I'm going to make money my own way. And
Mhm.
so, because that was always kind of modeled growing up, uh, always in the back of my mind, it gave me almost like that escape hatch, and not one that's like the sewer grate, one that's like more like a nice, slide
Yeah.
out the side of a panel, right? um,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm not slinking anywhere. And so during
Uh-huh.
like really uncomfortable moments in a corporate setting where maybe, all of a sudden the environment's gotten really toxic or there's just so much political stuff going on back and forth, always I was like, there's not just A or B. There are so many options to be able to
Yeah.
go side hustle and bring in money, fully
Yep.
go out and do it on your own, join forces with others, right? Like it's never been, I've never felt fully stuck, right? It's just
Mm.
more like, okay, if you don't want to be stuck and you can't see what's beyond choice B, you do know that more lies ahead. So sit and just be in the stillness to figure out, okay, then where is the hatch?
Yeah.
So I think for me, entrepreneurship has always been, it's always there. It's just when,
Yeah.
right? When are you going to step into it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Shout out to Mama for modeling that.
Yeah.
That's always helpful though. Like I remember when I first started my business or working for myself in 2010, I didn't tell my parents
Mm,
for months that I left my
mm,
job. And I kind of like played around with going back to work for several years, got a consulting gig at PBS, ended up taking a full-time job there for like 2 years in between my business journey, still doing some consulting on the side. Um, and I definitely waited when I left PBS, which was a good
yeah, it's a
state
good
job,
job.
as they say. Got that good state job.
Mm,
I didn't tell my parents for a while because I knew they were going to be like, "What are you doing? Like
mhm,
you're choosing
mhm,
this life?" Yes,
mhm.
I I'm choosing it, and I chose it. It's done. There's no going back for me at this point.
Right?
Whew.
You
But
just you
entrepreneur.
just also sparked a really quick memory too. I mean,
Uh-huh.
this was like so new for women to be able to be entrepreneurs when I was growing up. I mean, I remember my mom being so proud when she actually got her first credit card because at the time the banks had that rule where like, oh,
Right.
where's your
Mm-hmm.
husband to sign,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, my mom didn't know how to drive. Here she
Mm.
was, in her early 30s, still not knowing how to drive. So she went and she got lessons, right? All this independence happened when the dad stepped out of the room, right? I stepped out of the house. And so
Wow.
that was always modeled because she was never like, I am not going to be bulldozed and be a doormat. We're going to survive and move forward. And I think that's always been in my mind, like to see also that kind of independence during a
Mm-hmm.
time where society did not support it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when you learn about the stats, like with women and money,
Mhm.
and how for so long, like in our lifetimes, recent history, like
Hello.
women could not have access to certain wealth mechanisms as
Right.
freely as men.
Mhm.
It's Don't get me started. I'm gonna get on my whole Rachel Rodgers
Yes.
soapbox and
Well,
like,
that's another reason why we are bonded in our sisterhood and in this community, in this squad, because yes,
yeah.
we're all like, oh, we see it and it's got to continue to change. There's a lot more
Mm-hmm.
that needs to happen. But when I see where we came from, what our
Right.
moms and I experienced, maybe even our like I even go back to like
Yeah.
what my grandmother, I mean, whoa, right? Come a
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started. It starts to speak a lot about society and cultures and options, and
Hmm.
it's was pretty easy for me to think as a child, like, oh, why did such and such stay with uncle such and
Right?
such, grandpa such and such?
Right?
Because her options were probably limited. Like,
Right?
not only was
Yeah,
she a woman, she was black and in the South. So,
that's right.
my
And there
God.
weren't the same economic opportunities. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, oh gosh, don't get me started on that. Um, I'm curious about self-care because as
Hmm.
you know, as we all know as entrepreneurs, it can be tough, at least for me, to find time for self-care. Um, did you learn anything from your mom growing up about self-care and just finding play? And she sounds like a hardworking woman, so I want to start there.
Yeah. So here I was shouting at my mama, and now she'll be like, "Why did you have to tell them that?" You know, my that
Sorry,
was
mom.
actually at the that was the flip side, right? Of watching my mom work so hard and work 3 jobs and get 2 hours of sleep is she wasn't good with self-care. On top of that, she was a nurse, which is a
Mhm.
profession of sacrifice, right? Sacrificing
Yeah.
one's own health. And so I didn't really learn about self-care until I got into my own therapy, until I got into
Shout
my
out to
own,
therapy. Yes.
right? Until I got into my own way of, you know, helping that inner child that still had abandonment issues and felt less than and felt invisible, right? All those things that happened growing up in a house where um, my mom would have been open if I said, "Hey, here are my needs," but there was never that opportunity. She was too busy
Mhm.
just helping us
Right.
survive, right?
Right.
So self care started probably in my 20s, but there are moments where I have to be like very aware of when I start feeling so irritable and so flattened out that I can't focus, that I'm like,
Mm.
oh, it's because I'm not showing up every day to work out, which is really for me about strength and reproducing energy
Mhm.
versus looking a certain way.
Right.
Um, and uh, and even like the littlest things, like when I get home, am I getting into pajamas and like chilling and washing my face and right, all those little things that sound trivial are super important
Yeah.
to show up every day.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be big. Like I was talking to
Mm-mm.
um I think I was talking to Angela Matthews from our group, and we were talking about just what pleasure and enjoyment and gratitude, like all the different ways it looks. It can be loud. It can be a trip to Greece for 10
Yes.
days, which
Hello.
I'm planning to do. it can also be like very soft and gentle. Like
Mhm.
one thing I love to do is do jigsaw puzzles and listen to Murder She Wrote
Mm.
audiobooks. Like
Ooh.
that's my
Yeah.
jam. So
Yeah.
yeah, it just depends on what it looks like for you, and I love that you're working on it, and because it's an ongoing thing, right? Like,
It's very, very much so. It's very ongoing. And so I now have what has become almost like a ritual, right? I wake up early in the morning, I work out, I move. I'm like,
okay,
bottom line, whether you're going to hit the gym or you decide you don't want to be at the gym, you're going to move for 30 minutes through
yeah,
space outside, even if it's freezing outside. And then there's even just reflection and writing in the morning.
mm,
Um, and uh, I've also made a determination, which has really helped in my self-care, is I'm going to read a nonfiction book, 10 pages of a nonfiction book a day. Like, what is going to help you advance? Right now, I'm on, it's called A Time to Think. It's Juliet Funt, and she's
okay,
all about like carving out space in your schedule so that you actually have time to dream, imagine, create instead of stuffing it back to back with appointments where you don't have time to
mm,
actually suss out and filter new thoughts. Um,
mm,
so that helps with my self care. It helps center me before then my office is open, right?
mm-hmm.
So I do that before normally 8:39 a.m.
I feel like I need that. I need you to say the name of that book again because I'm taking notes as we talk. A Time to Think, you said?
I think it's called Time to Think, A Minute
Mm-hmm.
to Think. There we go. A Minute to Think. It's
Minute to think.
Juliet Funt. She happens to be the daughter of the guy who created Candid Camera, that TV show.
Really? You're now on
Yeah,
Candid Camera?
right?
That's an
Yeah.
interesting fact.
Hmm.
That really speaks to me because, and this is something that I'm working on in therapy and in all the ways. Um, I'm really good at filling up my plate to the point of
Hmm.
like burnout and stress
Hmm.
and like literally yesterday 10 started my day with 10 meetings, like 8:30 to 5:15 back to back to back. I had
Mm.
one meeting got canceled and another meeting I skipped. But when I say I almost cried when they canceled that one
Mm.
meeting, just because, and this is it's not abnormal for me to have 6 meetings a day, 7 meetings a day. That's pretty
Hmm.
standard. Um, but I also fantasize about like what would I feel like if I didn't feel the need to be so busy or to be so booked or to say no,
Hmm.
to have better boundaries of my
Hmm.
time with people.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that's something you've ever struggled with, but like save me,
I'm like,
Beth,
hello.
save me.
Because Tiffy, I'm right there. So yeah, so that's how I was always. I thought that was the way you did your day. What you just described,
Right.
I was like, okay, it's time for bullet train time, and it goes from Monday through Friday, maybe even a little bleeding over into Saturday morning. Welcome to the
Okay.
world of being an entrepreneur and running your own business. That even would happen to me when I worked for other big corporations,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yep. Same.
I would let it bleed in. And I realized, though, and this was key to start to separate, I tied my identity, my importance
Yep.
to the role I played in those
Mhm.
companies versus
Yep.
what if I show up as just a good human being and get to show up
Mm.
as a great wife, as a
Mhm.
great friend, partner, right?
Mhm.
All of
Mhm.
those things. So
Yeah.
that was a big like first for me to then start to unpeel myself from
Yeah.
booking myself so much that there was no room to breathe or be creative. And
Mhm.
that's what I do, right? I'm supposed to be the creative strategist. So, how do I then free up those thoughts? And so, what I loved
Right.
about this book, what it sparks, and I would just say to you and invite you into this question, Tivi, what if You padded 30 minutes between each meeting. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it might mean then you're not going to be, how many meetings did you say you had back to back?
It was started off as 10, ended up being 8.
10. Okay, 8. So you may only be able to speak to 4
Mm-hmm.
during that day, and which
Yep.
means then you're having to extend it out. What it also did in that kind of what is called the white space, right? There's nothing written in that little slot.
Yeah.
Is then all of a sudden I said, you know what? And I'm not going to work after. I'm not taking meetings after 3 anymore because I am multi-minded by then. And
Yes. Oh
I'm
my gosh.
not going to do client interfacing on Fridays anymore. I'm going to be working, but I'm going to be working on my business, not in it. Right. So
Yes.
knowing that, and I'm not going to do it perfectly. This is going to take
Right.
time to unravel myself
Mm-hmm.
from this idea that somehow it's like an extra badge for busyness.
Right. Letting that go,
Hmm.
like busyness. Also, busyness does not, and this is something that I've learned over the past couple of years, busyness does not equal success. Busyness does not equal importance. Busyness does not equal how you think people value you, because it can be the opposite.
That's
Um,
right.
so yeah, you're absolutely right, and kudos to you, because I'm trying to get to that place where no external meetings on Friday. I just want to be, hey,
Hmm.
awesome girl, or chilling.
Right. Right. So it started with, I use Acuity as my calendaring tool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the first thing I did was I was like, okay, you literally can say 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after are
Mm-hmm.
padded. You cannot book
Right.
right up against, right? So that
Yeah.
already started to set a tone. And at first, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't comfortable. I panicked, especially when I get, a new prospect saying, oh, I can't wait to talk to you. Oh, wait, you're booked for the next 2 weeks, right? I'll panic. I'll be like, eh.
Mm-hmm.
But then, just letting
Right.
that go and being like, well, if you really want to work with me, we'll figure it
We'll
out.
wait.
Maybe you're going to have to wait. If there's an opening,
Yeah.
I'll try to put you in there.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. I know my operations manager is gonna listen to this and be like, "I told you, I've been telling you for 2 years." Like, she's really good at trying to protect my time, and I'm like we literally
Hmm.
developed. You know how Rachel Rogers has those calendar rules? We
Yes.
literally developed calendar rules in 2020, Beth. 2020.
Mm.
Ask me if I use them. Dummin, who was emailing you? I know she's gonna be like, "You better listen to Beth, because you don't listen to
Hmm.
her." So.
Hmm.
So I would definitely try that. Padding on my meetings as a first
Yeah.
step.
A
And then,
wedge. A wedge. Yep.
yes. And then I am trying to get off of client meetings on Fridays, just so I have a full day of just, hey, awesome girl work.
Hmm. And I think if you just, even if it means you're doing it in front of your mirror, because that's what I had to do. And I looked right in the mirror at myself. I was like, I don't work after 3 and I don't work on Fridays externally with clients. It just
Yes.
made kind of a stake in the ground.
This is gonna seem like a weird question. Do you do any like emotional freedom technique or tapping or anything like that?
No, but I've done, I mean, I've done tapping at like workshops. I think it's amazing. And at moments where, um, really high stress or really high anxiety, I do tend to rock and kind of pat myself anyway, but no,
Hmm.
not formally.
Okay, you just reminded me. I follow Gala Darling. She does a
Mm,
lot of like tapping EFT videos. Highly recommend. I'll put her information in the description
okay.
for this video too. But she recommends, because tapping is like you work through the blocks, and you sort of like you also give yourself affirmations. She recommends doing it in a mirror, which is why that made me think
Mm,
of it, because
mm,
looking at yourself, talking to yourself, like that's so powerful.
mhm.
How did you come to that idea?
A couple different things. I think through osmosis, just being in Hello Seven, Rachel Rogers. all those lessons that are there, especially at the beginning about glow up and mindset, um,
Mm,
it's pretty much there. It's like, what are you going to say to yourself to
yeah.
change what you say to yourself? And
Mm,
I just laid in there. Well, then I need to see my face speaking at myself because we're so used to just talking out and not seeing
yeah.
ourselves reflected back.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also makes me think about the idea of really looking at yourself. This is going to be pretty vulnerable thing for me to say. Like for
Mm,
growing up, I always I had very low self-esteem. I thought I was just the ugliest thing on earth. That like still sticks with me in a lot of ways, like those that mind trash, that itty bitty titty
mhm,
committee that
mhm,
had such a long time to really like tell myself really horrible things. And for a while, it was hard for me to like consistently like look at myself. And so the idea of it's what you said is really sticking with me because really looking at yourself, like I'm really good at like looking at other people, like maintaining
mm,
eye
mm,
contact. Like
mm, mhm,
that's I do that very well for other
mhm,
people. But
mhm.
when it comes to me and myself, it's such a vulnerability, right? Of looking at you and actually seeing
Yes,
you for you and talking to you as you.
yes. And thank you for sharing that because I think actually, to be a lot of women experience that. I
Mm,
experienced that growing up. And when I speak to other women, um, you know, it's such a dual message we get growing up, right? As girls, women, you name it. It's like be pretty, be quiet, be gracious, don't take up too much space. Take over, right? There's so many like roles that are assigned to us, and then culturally, depending on, right? So
mhm,
for me, in a big Jewish family, right, that also, it was all about be gracious, don't,
mm,
take care of, actually manage other people's feelings, make sure that they feel
mhm,
okay, right? So don't say
mhm.
anything that will be too, right? And so
Yeah.
when you're then stuck with yourself, I remember being reprimanded for maybe being speaking my mind, therefore I was rude or hurting
Mm,
somebody's feelings, right? Whatever it was. And so it was very easy for me to then go, oh, see, I am so ugly from the inside
mm,
out. And I don't look
mhm.
like anybody else, and I'm never going to fit in, and all of these things. But I think it
Yeah.
was just a story. Talk about stories. It was a story that was a lie that was swallowed and agreed to be swallowed a long time ago.
Yeah. And it makes me think about going back to your business and
Mhm,
branding and messaging and the ways in which you like really help a company to differentiate themselves and stand
mhm,
out.
mhm.
I feel like sometimes as kids, the things that make us different, like we don't want them. It's like we just want to fit in. Like
Right.
like I want to change this thing about me. It's so horrible. I'm not like everyone else. But what's funny is like now in your business, like that's like that's your superpower. Like
Right?
right.
What makes us, I forgot who said it. It was I want to say, I don't remember who right now, but what makes us different is our magic.
Hmm.
How we act in the world, especially growing up, that is our intellectual property. That is the
Yep.
thing that is our signature. That is the way that we stand out, right? And then when you compare it, let's just say if we're going to use this thing about like, let's just look at high school where you don't want to stand out. You want so badly to fit in, you know?
Right. Just stay
And I,
safe.
yeah, and I really didn't. And really didn't. And you know, there are mean girls and mean boys. And there is like, that, I'm being vulnerable. Oh, you're making fun of me. Now I feel humiliated, right? All of these things. And I think what's really important is to whether it's through therapy or through meditation or writing, to go
Yeah,
back. This might sound some a little woo, but that's okay. It's one of my strengths,
I'm with
is
it.
woo.
I'm with it.
Is to go back and actually save or soothe that moment, that child at that time, Beth at 14, Beth at 16, that just
Mm-hmm.
felt so odd and outcast, did not fit in, right? And go
Mm-hmm.
back and say, all is good even now, and you are safe. And it's okay to pull
Yeah.
those things that you maybe flattened or tamped down or muted
Mm-hmm.
into now, because they were your magic and your gift, and you have it now. It's just waiting.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That inner child work. 'Cause that inner child will get you now. People
Hmm.
stay trying to nurse those inner child wounds in all the wrong ways
Yes.
in this life. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. So, but I'm working on it.
Hmm.
Whew. What are you looking forward to over the next 12 months?
I think really being able to, where I was talking about changing this business model, right? Really being able to serve more people in a shorter amount of time so they can just be empowered and confident with how they're going to move through the world, expressed
Mm,
through marketing and their brand. Um, I'm also excited to continue to expand my team. Right now, the world keeps informing Fortified Branding to be an agency, right? And so that's exciting for me, because then finding those people that really fit the culture and the values of Fortified Branding, and them coming on board, and them taking ownership of their expertise as they
mhm.
add to helping clients is really exciting for me. And really celebrating being in year three. It's not the same growing pains as one. There's a lot talk about. There's a lot of awkwardness again, right? It's like, well, how do I
Yeah.
figure that out, and how do I scale from here, and how do I get to a next level, and
Yeah.
how do I hire frequency of the business that I've created?
But congrats on year 3. I just want to give it up to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. Oh, I love those claps.
Anytime, Beth. I always got some celebrations for you. Where can folks find you online and to learn about you?
They can find me at my website, fortifiedbranding.com. Also, my Instagram handle is Fortified Branding. I'm not so good at Twitter, although I do have a handle there. Um, and pretty soon there'll be blogs and more information on LinkedIn that I've been starting to push out.
Perfect. I so appreciate you joining me today in our chat. Obviously, I could talk to you all the time because we got some stuff to
Yes,
say.
we do.
So we might have to do a part 2. But thank you
Mhm.
so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tivi.
Thank you so much for watching this episode with Beth. I love talking to Beth. As you can probably tell, she always drops some gems, as I like to say, spit some bars. What was most impactful to you? I'm very curious. Please consider sharing your thoughts in the comments, or sharing with us on social media. You can find us at Hey Awesome Girls across all the platforms. A couple of things that stood out to me. One, our point about your uniqueness being your superpower and the key to building a successful and memorable brand. To Beth's point about how being an entrepreneur, especially being a solopreneur, doesn't mean you have to do it alone. You can be in community with other entrepreneurs. She also said that it's okay to be vulnerable. The mental health, the emotional toll, the physical toll of being an entrepreneur, it can be tough. It can be a very isolating experience. But if you can find community, if you can find your tribe, your entrepreneurial journey will be so much richer and so much better. So I definitely encourage you to do that. And I encourage you, if you found this episode helpful, if you found some nuggets of wisdom, please consider sharing it with a friend, with a family member, maybe someone who is an entrepreneur, who's thinking about entrepreneurship. Help them study success. Like, let them learn from our mistakes and hear what works for us. And then maybe they can apply it to their lives probably a little bit earlier than I applied it to my own. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I am Tivi Jones, founder and CEO of the creative studio Hey Awesome Girl, recording from my home office. As a reminder, Hey Awesome Girl's social mission is to celebrate and empower women, especially women of color. We believe digital entrepreneurship is a resource to increase confidence, close racial and gender wealth gaps, and provide a means of freedom for women all over the world. As we like to say, empowered women empower women. And that is exactly what we're trying to achieve with this show. Please stay tuned for our next episode. I don't even know who it's going to be at this point. I'm sure it's on my calendar, but I'm excited anyway. In the meantime, head on over to our website, heyawesomegirl.com, to sign up for our email list for some weekly goodies from us. And until next time, don't forget to be awesome. So it's me again, just jumping back on to share a special resource with you. So I know I talk a lot about our pleasure, ease, and abundance framework that we use at Hey Awesome Girl, but maybe you aren't quite sure what that means and how you can incorporate that into your life. Well, we have a free resource for you that can help with that. It's our Pleasure, Ease, and Abundance Playbook. In this playbook, I outline the 9 elements of pleasure, ease, and abundance you need to consider to help you create a life that is fun, fabulous, and free. I walk you through journal prompts, I share resources, and give you some actionable steps you can take to get you further away from stress, exhaustion, and being broke. To download this free playbook, go to heyawesomegirl.com/framework, enter your email address, and we'll send it right over to you. That's heyawesomegirl.com/framework to download your free playbook today.